have the honor of working here as Associate Director of Community Arts, and I'm also a member of ASE, and it is our great honor to have ASE as one of our community partners. So we hope that you will, as you are leaving, pick up the U Chicago Arts magazine and see many of the other opportunities to come back here to the Logan Center. If you all enjoyed the blues tonight, we hope that you will come back. October 19th through the 21st, we'll be having the Logan Center Blues Festival. You can get a festival pass. There are going to be blues musicians from around the world here. There are many free blues workshops and many free experiences. Also some paid, wonderful, amazing evening concerts that you wouldn't hear any other time. So October 19th through the 21st. Information is in here also. Tonight is the night where we celebrate the adults, but we also have some wonderful family programs. On the first Saturday of every month, we have Family Saturdays, and ASE is one of the partners for those programs. The first one is October 6th, so there's information out there about that. Bring your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor, your grandson, your granddaughter, bring them all, and have some fun time in the arts. Stories are important. And we are at a time in this country where we need to look back and look forward and lift each other up and make us laugh and cry and remember the stuff that we are made of. So it is so special to be here tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Fain, our wonderful MC, and just pick up this information on the way out so that you all remember to come back here again and again. Thank you for being in the house.
Our next person that I'm getting ready to introduce you to is our ASE's current president, Alice Butler Palmer. Alice wears many hats. She is a facilitator, educator, while I look for my notes. Educator, writer, and she is a co-founder of the DuSable Museum. She is a Rhodes Scholar, and Alice can tell you a little more about herself because I misplaced the things. But right now we're going to change the order. We have a special guest here tonight, and we're going to honor her, and Alice will explain that. Thank you.
First of all, let me clear something up. What it said was that I was doing a one-woman show for the Illinois Arts and Humanities as a Rhodes Scholar, and the show was entitled Margaret Burroughs, the founder, one of the founders of the DuSable Museum of African American History. I'm not going to take that. That's what I said. Okay, I can redo that. But it's my honor tonight to first of all just smile. My spirit smiled, the ancestors smiled for what we've seen and what we've heard. But not only that, now we move to a different part of the program. There are some people that I would like to stand and give acknowledgement to. There is a power couple on the south side of Chicago. People keep looking for the power couple. Well, ASE has a power couple. The power couple is Pat and Martin Red. And behind every couple, there stands a family, because family is the roots. And out of those roots come so many marvelous things. All members of the Red family who are related in any way to our honoree tonight, would you just raise your hand and let us know you're in the house? Thank you so very much. It's my duty and my honor right now that I'm going to introduce Nana Camille Yarborough. She is our Tradition Keeper Award for this year, and we are honored that we want to give her roses while she can smell them. Nana Camille Yarborough is an award-winning performance artist, author, and cultural activist. We really have to be out there pushing that our African American culture is just shown just a little bit of respect. But it starts with us respecting ourselves. Her career spans over 60 years, several continents. She's had countless awards, numerous accolades for a number of generations. Nana Camille has earned legendary status. She continues to inspire audiences today by her long-running television show, by her CDs, by her books, all entitled The Ancestor House. She also gives live performances and lectures focusing on poetry, music, Black art, spirituality, and culture. She is regularly called upon in New York to do her life's work. At Kwanzaa time, at other celebrations at York College. Also in New York, she has performed for the Kwanzaa for Malala Karenga and Michael Eric Dyson on his radio program. Regardless of the medium, Nana Camille has a long-term vision. Has anyone said you need to be a visionary? You need to have goals? She is a living visionary. Sometimes we need to honor the elders while they are among us. And that's what we're doing here tonight. She consistently, over and over again, champions the beauty and the greatness of African people, wherever they are in the world. Have you ever heard that there are silver cords that you can drop to anchor yourself? A gold, a silver, anchor yourself to the earth. She has anchored herself, and her personal mission is to raise the consciousness, the African consciousness of her people, the consciousness of her culture, the consciousness to a glory. By her honor, by the power of her words, she just vibrates those chords. They move back and forth. And as those chords vibrate, they bring unity to all who are around. She is one who understands the rainbow culture. Why? Because she's rooted and grounded in her culture. Please stand as we get ready to present our Tradition Keeper Award to Nana Camille Yarborough. Stand, please.
Energy going. I need you to do a ululation. You ready? And I count to 3. Let's go. You know what I'm talking about? No. Okay, it's... Ready? 1, 2, 3, and...
Sure.
Yes. I thank you. It is an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here, to look at all your faces, to feel your spirit, and to know that I am in your family, that we are family. I wrote a song about that. I've written a line. One says, I'm so glad we are family. I want to shout, we are family. And tell the world we are family. And show the world we are family. Now the song goes on. But I want you to know that that's my heart. And I got it a lot here in Chicago, where I was born. father from Alabama. But most of us in Chicago came from someplace else. Came from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. And we brought all of that richness with us. Richness that survived much that had been taken away from us. I'm listening to the blues and I said, yes, thank God for the blues. Because it helped save our lives. Well, we had no other way of expressing our frustration, our pain. We created blues, jazz, ragtime. We created all, the last word is hip-hop, right? Okay, got a little off with the hip-hop, but we got to bring it all back. Bring it back. The Spirit will bring it back because it's correct. But there's something involved in being black and being African that has caused us and helped us to survive, and that is courage. Iwa. Ewa, that the Nigerian people say. If you have children, but you don't have Iwa, courage to mold them and give them what you have, they don't belong to you. Now look around at our music and how our children have been taken someplace else through our music. So what is up to us to do what? Use our Iwa, our courage to come and get it back. Sometimes, you know, when I was in New York, one day I'm walking in the subway in the early 80s, and I heard something that I hadn't heard publicly before, especially coming out of the mouth of young people. I was walking, I heard the M word, the B word, and all of that, and I'm going to do this. And I said, what is that? And I looked around, and some young brothers were sitting on the steps, and they had a boom box. And out of that boom box, they came all of this different stuff that we had not really shared with one another publicly. I mean, there were times when we go off, when we need to go off, but at any rate, it wasn't encouraged to come out of our young people's mouths. And I went back and I said, who is that? What is that? We the NWA, that's the NWA. And you know what that means, right? Okay. It was shocking to me, and I think when people say that older people don't, young people have been taught that older people don't like them, you know, don't approve of them. And I had to say, no, older people were kind of in shock. Because I was in shock when I heard that. Our children didn't used to really speak that way, especially not in front of elders, not in the subway. So much was changing. And it was necessary to go back to our power base. And I know we talk a lot about being black, but we don't talk about really and hold it about being African. There's no sense in giving praise to your cornrows if you cannot respect the roots of those cornrows. And as the elders used to say, a lot of things that helped me get through life. Watch your mouth. Those children didn't know anything about watching their mouths. Okay. A hard head makes a soft behind. Yeah. Those children didn't know about that. Up here talking about blues, every closed eye ain't sleep. That's wisdom in those sayings. And every goodbye ain't gone. Think about it. Think about what we see in politics today. We thought some of that was gone, but they said goodbye, but they didn't really go anyplace. They're still here. So it's up to us to go back to Iwa and have the courage to tell our story. The wrong part, the good part and the bad part. I wrote a song some time ago called Take Your Praise. And as a sister was singing that blues, I would say, yes, take your praise. And I wanted the men to sing it, I wanted the women to sing it, because it's a compliment to one another. We've come a long, long way together, haven't we? Yes. Through the hard time and the good, haven't we? And then the woman or the man says, I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should. You so rare, you so fine, and I'm so glad you mine. But then it says, I'm glad I'm a woman because you're a feeling, thinking man. And anytime I know you need me, I'm going to please you every way I can. Now the man can say the same thing about the woman, and I think we got to start singing love songs to each other again. And not just about booty. You understand what I'm talking about? Because that does not keep a family together. It keeps you together for a little while, but that's not fundamentally what we are. That's not what saved our lives when they brought us out of Africa. So we have to go deeper. We have to go, you are storytellers. And that's a blessed place to be. Endless supply. We're the first human beings to understand. Even the Chinese had to realize that recently, that, oh, their origin was with African people. Learn the truth and tell the truth. That's that Iwa again. Another song I wrote, unfortunately, I had to write it. A song called But It Comes Out Mad. My father from Alabama had suffered the tragedies, the terror of Alabama. And like many of us, we brought all of that terror, those who came from the South and experienced in Chicago too. We brought the hurt. We brought the wounds. We brought the anger. All of that in the hand-me-downs. Y'all know what hand-me-downs are. I'm one of 8 children. I'm the youngest girl. When my sister Celeste didn't wear out all of her clothes, I wore some. And my sister Titi and my sister Shirley, they gave me hand-me-downs, as with my brothers. But there were other hand-me-downs. And when I saw my father's anger, and when he exploded, I said, what is wrong? Because he loved us. And yet at times that something else was there, and I had to ask Mama what it was all about. And she told me about his upbringing in Alabama. That made the difference. That made me say, look beyond what's in front of you. Look deeper with our people. And I think that's the way we have to do now, because there's a turning around, and it's focusing on us. Did that man say, let's go to Chicago? What's happening in Chicago? What can they lose in Chicago? I'm saying to us in Chicago, and I'm saying to us around the world, that this is a time when we have to make do ourselves. And only we can do it. Cops ain't going to do it. National Guard's not going to do it. In our families, we have to resurrect those strong things that we had before that allowed me to travel around the world, go through all kinds of situations, believe me, and come out because my mother and father raised me well. And this society said, no, we're going to give it to you in the music. We're going to tell you every way to disrespect each other. We're going to bring you Cardi Who, and we're going to bring you this too. Coming from prostitution, we are not a prostituted people. We have never been that way. We have worked against it. Our women, look at even people who's in private lives, they did what they did, but when they came on the stage, they respected us. How many times did I go to the Regal Theater and even see Moms Mabley, who's a comedian? She didn't get down and dirty. She was funny as hell, excuse me, but she didn't get down and dirty. They had that respect. What'd she say about her man? He's older than dirt or older than water. But she said, she supported the NAACP. She did all those other things. So what I'm saying is that when we came here, we had honor in chains. In those fields where we had no shoes. We sang, I got shoes, you got shoes, all God's children got shoes. What does that mean? As the sister said, we are visionaries. So we saw past the pain, and right now we have to join another struggle. Harriet Tubman said when she had brought all those enslaved people out of slavery, came to New York, people said, Harriet, we have a home for you. Come on, rest. Don't you want to rest? What are you going to do? She said, I'm going to do it again. And she went right back down south because she loved us more than she loved herself. All of our great people have loved us more than they loved themselves. Think about it. Dr. King Road, he didn't have to do that, but he loved us more. All of those people, and your grandmama, and your grandfather who sacrificed for us and brought us this far. Let's give something for the grandfolks over here right now. Oh, yes. I had a grandmama who told me I was an old head. I didn't know what she meant, but I learned. And I respect it. So I want to respect my family who are here, who come from that lineage. A grandmother who was a writer, but she couldn't write because she had 8 children and a troubled husband to take care of. And she sacrificed for that. And for a father who had all kind of suffering in the South, but still saw to it that we had what we needed when we needed it, when we were children. And so I wrote books, all of it cornrows, because I wanted people to respect our hair. I'm sick and tired of people laughing at our hair. And you know, we now they're doing another thing. Hair, you gotta have hair every place. No, you don't. No, you don't. In our tradition, you didn't braid your hair until I think in some places the first menstrual period. Okay? You didn't wear your hair free until some other thing. And you went through a ritual to take you there. Because there were reasons. That's why I said the braids were named after deity. They were named after people who contributed to the community. They were named after ancestors who had done something. The braids were named in their honor. What would you name your braids if you named it in honor of Michelle Obama? Harriet Tubman? What would you name your braids and how would you wear them? It's not about how much you pay for your hair. It's not. I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to get off this thing. During the 70s, when everything was happening, black people were changing this world for the better. We were wearing African clothes. We really didn't know what they meant, what the symbols meant, but we learned. We renamed ourselves African names. We didn't know what they couldn't pronounce the names, but we learned because it's our culture. We did dances, there will be dance, we did everything. We had to learn what the movements meant, but we learned. And so we again have to learn. And that's why I wrote that book, Cornrows, because I wanted us to know it's more than fashion, it's tradition. And I'm so happy to receive that award today. Then Little Tree Growing in the Shade. Now, you do this. Might cause a little controversy, but that's where it is. We have to have courage and we have to have truth. We're not all good, are we? We have faults, don't we? And we have greatness, don't we? Yes. Acknowledging both of those, we can heal ourselves. Because when crack was introduced into our communities, a lot of our families were broken down. And grandmothers and grandfathers had to take over. Anybody know about that? Yeah. You had to raise the children that your children were ordinarily. But the crack had gotten so many of us, so we didn't pass down all the wisdom. It just didn't happen. And so we have to go and rescue those children and rescue our people. So the Little Tree Growing in the Shade is about our music and how it started. And how those people who were in chains and brutalized so badly changed the world, really, changed their situation by creating music. And out of that music called spirituals came, after Civil War, after so-called freedom, came gospel music. And we have used that music. And then at the same time became the blues. But going back to spirituals, and sometimes when you go do research, some people research here and they get certain ideas. And some people research there and they get a different idea of the same subject. Amazing Grace, which our sister talked about, delineated here. We've all done a lot of research. I've done a lot of research. What he did, John Newton, he was a slave. And from what I have read, he was a nice slave, not a nice slave. The things I have read, he did not treat his people or freed them. But what he did, one day when they had this terrible storm that the people talked about, and he was upstairs on top. He was the captain of the slave ship. His father had been a captain of a slave ship. And he was up there listening, praying, don't let me die. Don't let this ship sink. But all that time when he was taking those enslaved people here and there, he was also listening to something coming out of the hulls as those people in their pain sang out to their God to save them. As those people sang, trying to reach back home with their voices, they sang so that they would survive. Newton upstairs listened to that music. He listened to those sounds. And when he decided that he wasn't going to be a slaver anymore, but that he was going to preach, and then he had to preach against enslavement, he used that music. The words he put there. But he's saying one part of it is, I was a wretch. Those enslaved people did not write anything about being wretches, because they were not wretches. They were captives, and they were brutalized terribly. And so he made his mark, making lots of money as a preacher and singing that song. There's a brother who has it on YouTube. You can look at it, and he delineates how, writes stuff, talks about how that song was written only on black notes, black keys, black pitches, you understand? No white things in there at all. And he exemplified, he did it for people in a big church, big Christian church, because he wanted them to know. And we have to claim what is ours, people. We have to claim our geniuses and stand up and talk about it. That's what griots do. I'm so glad to be a storyteller. I'm so glad that you are focusing on our story, because everybody tries to take it, distort it, do all kinds of things to it, and say, oh, it's not yours. We did that. No, they didn't. But they're going to take it until we rescue it. So I think as Malala Karenga always said, tell me, rescue me. Well, we have to rescue ourselves. Can I get an ashe on that? Ashe, ashe. And I'm just going to end this by thanking you, black people, African people in Chicago, who I would run to the store for and buy things for, the lady upstairs in the building where we were. And who in the neighborhood would chastise us in the street when we were doing wrong. Tell us to do right. And who my mother loved and my father loved. And I used to love you. There was a church on the corner. Our house was here on the church. And they had, one day the trumpet brought a trumpet in there. So they had the drums and the trumpet and the voices, and they were going. And on the corner there was another church on 58th Street in Indiana. And then in the street there were the vendors singing, I got sweet corn, I got black-eyed peas, 10 cents a peck. I got watermelon. Y'all don't know nothing about that? Yeah. What happened to the alleys? What happened to all that? Well, that nourished me also, just learning the story, doing the research, reading about the strength of our folks, the genius of us. So, last story, walking down the street one day, going to Lincoln Center, going to see Nina Simone. We were walking down the street, all in our African dress, gorgeous, just parade. We were walking that street, and it was flowing. You know, you love it. And as we were coming to Lincoln Center, there was some white folk who were not used to us. They thought that we were niggas. You understand? We are not. But they were coming towards us. So we're walking towards them, looking at the theater. And they walked off of the sidewalk to let us pass. Me, having listened to my father and watched him, noted that. And noted the stories that my father had told me about Alabama and how when black people walked down the street and white people were coming, the black people stepped into the gutter. Because the whites' prejudice there had the Ku Klux behind them. They had centuries of lynching behind them. But when those Europeans saw us, what did we have? We didn't have violence behind us. We had culture. We had that which we had brought from our homeland. We had the respect for elders. And the way we walked, and the way we talked, and the way we sang, and the way we changed America, changed the world for the better. Right now they're trying to change it back. And I don't think we're going to let them do that. No matter what. Thank you, Chicago Association for Black Storytellers. Thank you so much. One more time. This lady does a fantastic libation. A fantastic libation. Thank you so much.
The sky.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we did. Yes, we will. Our sisters have gone from picking cotton, scrubbing other people's floors, to stepping into the cockpit of a commercial airliner. Last year, a flight from Detroit to Las Vegas had a first officer and a captain. And make no mistake, they were both African American sisters. Yeah, that's what I said too. Yeah. And instead of boarding the way most captains and first officers do and going into the cockpit, they went where the passengers were and introduced themselves and had it videotaped. And the people that were passengers on that plane that day, they applauded, they took pictures, they woohooed. Everyone was so wonderful to them for that historic flight. But now, you know, there was a time some decades earlier when a woman by the name of Bessie Coleman. Oh, I knew you was right with me there. That's right, Bessie Coleman. Bessie Coleman wanted to be a pilot, and she applied at all of the local schools. And they said, not here. We're not going to teach you that. And she found that there was a school in France that would teach her. She was a nail technician. Do you have any idea how much money they made? But she was determined that she was going to go to France. She learned French so that she could go. And she learned to be a pilot in 7 months. It was amazing. It was her dream. Bessie Coleman was living her dream, flying that plane as a pilot. She loved it. She was tagged Queen Bee. That's right. That's right. And eventually, she came back to the United States, and she was a stunt flyer. She was good. Everybody loved to see her fly. But as fate would have it, she was taken from us at an early age because of a plane malfunction. But while she was here, she left a legend. And she was followed up by Willa Brown. Willa Brown, she was her shero. Bessie Coleman was the shero for Willa Brown, and Willa did a lot of first-time things. She got her license. She got her pilot's license. She got a commercial pilot's license. And she got a mechanic's license. She could fix her own plane. She didn't have to ask nobody for no help. As a matter of fact, she was so enthused about what she was doing. She went to Washington. She said, "Did you know that African Americans can pilot planes?" And they said, "Oh, no. She said, "Oh, yeah. And she came back to Chicago and she opened up the first school for African American pilots. And she taught them how to teach. They went to Tuskegee Institute and they taught the pilots there. You know about the Red Tails, right? Yeah. Oh, I just loved it. I just loved that movie. It was wonderful. But that's where it came from, Willa Brown. Willa Brown walked into the Chicago Defender office. And she stood there in front of everybody and she said, "I'm Willa Brown, and I'm here to see the editor." Every typewriter stopped. The room went completely quiet, and they just looked at her. Finally, somebody came to and went and got the editor. She invited the editor to come out to where she was having some stunt flying done by African Americans at an airport called Harlem that was in Oak Lawn at that time. Instead of sending a reporter, he went himself. And he was just absolutely amazed. He was in awe. She invited him to get into her plane, and she took him for a ride that he never forgot. Can you imagine a single-engine propeller flight? Now, I've been in a 747. I cannot begin to imagine what that little bitty plane felt like. But she did. She was a wonderful person. And in, I believe it was 2003, she went into the Hall of Fame someplace in Kentucky because of the original work that she had done throughout the 20th century. Willa Brown, amazing woman. In 1971, Stacey Grant, she wrote a book about being a flight attendant. She was the first graduate of the flight attendant training for Delta. And that was an amazing thing. She was the only African American in that whole class. And of course, she was excited when she got on board the flight. She was ready to give coffee or tea or whatever it was that they were. And when she would go up to the passengers, which were mainly Caucasian, they would turn their head in the other direction. And of course, you know, if they wouldn't take anything from her, what could she do? But then once the other flight attendants came by, they would order from them. And so that was something that she had decided that she would live with. And Delta supported her efforts in being there. Just hang in there. I know it's rough, but hang in there. And she did. And one day there was a gentleman who was sitting on the aisle, and she was offering him something to drink. And he looked at her and said, "Do you know your place?" Now, at first, she didn't know what he was talking about until she looked at his wife. And his wife had turned beet red. And then she understood what he meant. And she said, "Yes, I do. My place is right here." That was wonderful that she was able to come back with that. It was absolutely fantastic. African American women in aviation, sisters, standing tall and flying high.
is the maker of the beautiful Tradition Keeper Award. Tonight's story, Salt the Pudding, will make you laugh and smile. That way. You having a good time out here, aren't you? Yes. Before I begin, Camille, I want to say thank you because many years ago, when I first started this journey of storytelling, and I was doing an event, and I said something about, maybe nobody's going to show up. And you said to me, if even one person shows up, tell the story. So thank you for that. See if you can finish this for me. My name is Wes.
I don't say that mess.
Don't cast your pearls before swine. Beauty is as something my father used to say, pride cometh before the fall. Do you have any that you can share? A few? You make it real exact line. Oh, Ashe. That's right. Thank you.
Don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
All right. We could go on and on with that. But for the crux of this story, too many cooks. I'm gonna have company tonight. I'm gonna have company tonight. Company, company. I'm gonna have company tonight. Your turn. I'm gonna have company tonight. I'm gonna have company tonight. Company, company. I'm gonna have company tonight. That's what Mrs. Simpson would say whenever she was gonna have company, and she was having company tonight. She loved to entertain, and she thought she'd show off just a scotchy bit and make her very special chocolate pudding. Well, let me tell you, the Simpson household had been up since early that morning trying to get that house clean, putting everything in its place. You know how it is when you have company. Sometimes you do those things that you don't ordinarily do, but you want everybody to think you do. Well, the Simpson household was no different. But here it was, 6 o'clock, and still no pudding had been made. Mrs. Simpson had been up and down the block telling everybody she was going to make this very special recipe. So she had to get it done. Because at 8 o'clock, the first guest would be arriving. Mrs. Rogers was never late. She's always on time. Mrs. Simpson had 5 daughters. They were washing and ironing and crimping and cleaning because, you know, if she was having company, y'all, my eyes are blue. If she was having company, kids were going to have company too, if you know what I mean. So they wanted to look good too. But Mrs. Simpson didn't stop them because they were cleaning up. Even the diva of the family was cleaning up. So she stopped what she was doing and she went to go and salt that pudding. Well, she thought she had all of her ingredients. She put everything in the pot, or so she thought. She put everything in there, even her very special ingredient. Well, and she put it all together. She finished. She went back into the living room, and she began to dust the table. She dusted the chairs. And she dusted the piano. And as she was getting to the black and white keys, she realized, oh my God, I forgot to put the salt in it.
pudding maker, you know you only need an eensy-weensy pinch of salt. But if you forget that pinch, it's just not pudding. Well, she knew that if she stopped to go and wash her hands and salt the pudding, thank you. If she stopped to go and salt that pudding, you're always trying to be cute. I put these false eyelashes. Tell the truth, shame the devil, She had these eyes, and she figured that she would just get one of them and go and salt that pudding. But don't you know, each one of those girls had some excuse as to why they couldn't salt it. I can't, Mom. I'm ironing my dress. Oh, I can't, Mom. I'm polishing my shoes back in the day when they polished shoes. I can't, Mom. I'm braiding my hair. Each one of the 5 daughters had some excuse as to why they couldn't salt that pudding. Well, I'm not judging, but all I know is that if my mother had told any of my siblings and me to do something, we had better do it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Right, Karen? That's right. Well, Mrs. Simpson was upset, but she didn't have time to fuss at those girls because she needed to get her stuff together and she needed to get herself together. So she washed her hands and went in there and salted the pudding. Well, each one of those girls began to think about the fact that they didn't do what their mama asked them to do, and they figured they should do what their mama asked them to do. So one by one, they slipped into the kitchen and they salted the pudding. Yes. Even the diva of the family, who did nothing more than lay around reading romance novels, went in there to salt that pudding, because if it was one thing she liked more than anything, it was her mama's chocolate pudding. Well, it wasn't too long that Mrs. Simpson went in to finish what she was doing. The doorbell rang. The doorbell rang. The doorbell rang, and Mrs. Rogers was there. And shortly behind her, everybody else came in too. Well, they had a good time. They ate all the food that was there. They played music. They danced a little bit. But everybody was waiting for the fiesta resistance. Mrs. Simpson came out with that chocolate pudding. She was strutting it around. It sure made pretty. Pastor was there. And so, of course, he got first dibs. Everybody was waiting to see his reaction because they knew Mrs. Simpson, she was the best pudding maker in the whole neighborhood. He put that tablespoon of pudding in his mouth. They sat there with bated breath. And all of a sudden they heard, his eyes squint shut, his lips curled down, and he asked for water. Give me some water, quick! Everybody sat there with their mouths wide open and their eyes bugged out. Mrs. Simpson had an inkling that something was wrong, but so she took a taste of her own pudding. And before she could get it all the way down, she drank a tall glass of water. Which one of you girls salted the pudding? All of the girls said, I did, Ma. I did, Ma. I did, Ma. All 5 girls. All Mrs. Simpson could do was put her hands on her hips and say, oh, well, I did too. So, in some cases, too many cooks spoil the food. But in this case, too many cooks spoil the food. Now, the dessert may have been jacked up, but guess what? Because they were friends and family together, they still had a grand old time. That's the end of it.
Salt the pudding, cat red. Our next presenter, storyteller, Kucha Brownlee, is a co-founder of ASE and past president. She is also chair of the youth committee, training young people interested in the oral tradition of storytelling. Kucha means dawning. It is the onset of understanding. She believes storytelling initiates a desire to read and explore. She comes to storytelling by way of the theater. She also uses her voice. If the Spirit says sing, she'll sing. Kucha Brownlee and the Bible glass tree. Is that the word? Glass bottle. Glass bottle.
In another time, in a place down a long, long, dusty road, there was this grandmother and granddaughter. They lived in a rickety house with a rickety-pickety fence. And in the middle of that front yard was this big old tree. It was a special tree. Grandma said that was a spirit tree. And there were spirits, all kinds of spirits in that tree. Spirits from fire, and spirits from near, spirits with wisdom, and spirits that didn't seem to think at all. And sometimes when they got to talking, the wind would blow up and everything in the yard would start to swirl and make them telling stories, and their granddaughter would be laughing. Woo! But Grandma said, you know, she was going to have to quiet these spirits down. Because, you know, grandmas know about spirits. And they know how to keep spirits quiet. So she took these glass bottles, these colored glass bottles, and she showed her daughter how to put them on the tree. Every one of those bottles had a spirit in it. And she got them all together because she needed them to be quiet so they get themselves together and behave. And then life went on as usual. Grandma and her baby girl, they went walking. And Grandma noticed how the tall reeds were bending real low. And she heard the song of the grasshopper and the butterflies, and she said, storm is coming. Even though there was not a cloud in the sky. But she knew trouble was coming. The grandma and baby girl let her get up in the morning, and she took baby girl, and she took her out to where she would plant with a hoe and a tiller, and she would take the seeds, put them in the ground, and without saying a word, she taught baby girl how to plant vegetables and flowers so they would peek up in the ground. And later on, during the day, she would maybe take her for a swim by the creek. And they would sit and splash in the water, and she would wave the water, and baby girl would splash, and she taught her how to kick her feet and held her, and pretty soon baby girl could swim all by herself without ever really saying a word. Later on in the evening, baby girl would sit in her lap, and with the colored, beautiful yarn, and the bend of some fingers and some clicks of some needles, she taught her how to make her own winter blanket without really even saying a word. she would pick her up and they would hug and look at each other with love. And then they would lay down in the bed and just let the sound of the crickets put them to sleep. Oh yeah. They did everything together. They had a special bond. But then one day, these two people from the state, they drove down that long, dusty road, and they pulled up, and they looked around, and they said, "She's kind of old, ain't she?" And then one said to the other, "I don't believe she can see too good. Maybe this little girl should be with a family, with a mother and a father, you know, children, so she can talk and play." And others said, "I don't think she can hear. They haven't hardly said anything since we've been here. Yeah, what she needs is to be in a nice yuppie house with two adults and a couple of children to play with. Yeah, that's our recommendation." They never saw all the things Grandma taught them. They never saw the love that Grandma, baby girl, shared. And so they ran on back down that dusty road. Grandma, she taught baby girl how to sit out on a Sunday afternoon with a blanket and butterflies landing on your shoulders and blue jays eating out your hand, and have a picnic with all of the animals without really saying a word. But come the fall, trouble really came. Those two people from the state, they came back down the road, that now muddy road, and they came to get baby girl. Grandma, she didn't know what to say, what to do, just sighed. She said, "Trouble." She sat on a rocking chair on the front porch, and she began to rock and think. And she heard baby girl crying, and she started humming. And baby girl's sadness started to permeate the yard. And all of a sudden, the wind started picking up. And those people from the state was looking at Grandma and saying, "Yeah, we getting her just in time. Look at her. She's acting kind of strange, ain't she?" But she was sitting there. Because she was talking in a ritual to those spirits she had taught to behave. And the wind started to pick up and blow around. And all of a sudden, those little tinkling from the bottles on the trees. And Grandma was just, and the wind picked up. And all of a sudden, the wind brushed those people from the state and knocked one the other way. And the bottles started falling off the trees. And the wind was blowing them from side to side. And baby girl ran over to Mama, Grandma, and before they knew it, both of those people from the state was on the other side of that pickety fence. And the lady looked at the man and she said, "I think she can see very well." He said, yeah. And she hears better than most people I know. And Grandma, she hugged baby girl and And they got in that car, and they started driving down that muddy road. And they looked at each other and decided that they wouldn't be back to get baby girl. And they never said a word.
Kucha Brownlee in the glass box. We have had an enjoyable evening. Each storyteller has brought their own unique style of telling a story. We have saluted our honoree, and now we're at the close of our program. Thank you so much for coming while our ASE members line up, and we will hope to see you again and again and again. Thank you for supporting us. Our ASE members, please.
And in December, ASE will be 20 years old. So we're going to start celebrating in December with the Kwanzaa at the King Branch Library. Yes, and this is Miss Coleman, who is the head librarian at